In the backyard of a mansion, which led down to the water where a massive 110-foot yacht was docked, there was lawn that was covered in local officials, law enforcement officers, and politicians sipping cocktails and mingling as they watched fireworks display in the distance. Little did they know that the fundraiser for wounded police officers was being thrown by one of the most successful drug smugglers on the East Coast at the time. A life of opulence and luxury, a beautiful family, a fleet of extraordinary vehicles, and a breathtaking mansion by the Atlantic Ocean. This was the life of William F. Lamorte, a man who seemed to have it all. From hosting extravagant parties on his lawn to his involvement in county politics, it appeared that his wealth was earned through his chain of grocery stores. But in 1991, everything unraveled when he was sentenced to 50 years in prison and fined a staggering $49.2 million. Welcome to the Trap Tree series. My name's LMC. If you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, comment down below, and follow us on all the social medias. The links are down below in the description. Anyways, this is LMC. Let's run it. As it turned out, William F. Lamorte was the mastermind behind a vast international drug smuggling operation. Today, we delve into the life of William F. Lamorte, who he was, what did he do in pot smuggling history, and how was he eventually caught. So, William F. Lamorte was stupendously wealthy, masterminding a criminal enterprise that spanned from Colombia to Thailand. Now, Lamorte's operation involved the daring importation of pot, hashish, into the United States on a large scale. The illicit venture was incredibly profitable, but also it relied on a closely knit group of Lamorte's associates and a shadowy network of smuggler friends. Among some of Lamorte's closest smuggler friends was Jacob Moritz, who mysteriously vanished, along with two other co-defendants before law enforcement could close in on them. We'll get to Moritz later, but for now, let's focus on Lamorte. So as mentioned earlier, Moritz, and the two other defendants in the case managed to evade justice, and Lamorte was not so lucky as he would eventually face his day in court. Following an extensive federal trial in March of 1991, Lamorte was found guilty and subsequently handed a 50-year prison sentence. This punishment sent shockwaves through the legal system, especially because in addition to his hefty punishment, Lamorte was ordered to pay a staggering $49.2 million in fines. On top of that, the drug kingpin was also compelled to forfeit a colossal sum of $25 million worth of assets. But then again, that leads us to the million-dollar question. How was Lamorte able to hide such a large smuggling enterprise for years? Before we jump back into the video, I just want to say big thank you to Dr. Smoke for supporting this content. If you guys go over to drsmoke.com and use my discount code LMC, you're going to get 15% off your entire order. Again, that's going to be LMC, 15% off at drsmoke.com. They got all different types of products. Anyways, big thank you to the homies over at Dr. Smoke. Without them, none of this would be possible, so I can't thank them enough. Now, let's jump back into the content. Well, in a revealing jailhouse interview with the Suffolk Times, this well-known businessman revealed it all. So according to the interview, Lamorte orchestrated the transportation of illicit substances from freighters anchored miles offshore through Gardiner's Bay to family-owned properties in Southold, using smaller boats to execute this scheme. The efforts of the police on this case yielded tremendous results, and there was more than enough evidence of Lamorte's involvement in drug smuggling. In spite of all of that, throughout his incarceration, Lamorte remained steadfast in his claim that he should not have been convicted, especially since, according to him, he had ceased his involvement in drug smuggling years prior to his arrest. Anyway, on his arrest and trial, the government presented a compelling case alleging that William Lamorte was the head of a substantial, highly profitable organization engaged in illicit smuggling of pot. Their claim suggested that the operation had successfully infiltrated the country with nearly 120 tons of pot since as far back as the 1970s. Several key figures within Lamorte's organization, including William's own brother, Thomas, the boat crew members, and other individuals, also provided testimony to support the government's case. Although these detailed statements painted a vivid and comprehensive picture of the inner workings of Lamorte's extensive smuggling network, in particular, the testimonies of Thomas Lamorte and Steve Garrison, the captains of some of the vessels involved in the smuggling activities, revealed that between 1970 and 1977, Lamorte had been the driving force behind the large-scale importation of pot from regions such as Jamaica, Colombia, and Morocco. In fact, the testimonies revealed that on one occasion, Lamorte even took it upon himself to personally transport pot from ships into his property in Southold, New York. He even used his own boat, the Mary Poppins. Thomas Lamort further disclosed that in 1977, Lamort expanded his operations to include the importation of hashish from Lebanon. And then by 1981, William Lamort started to set his sights on importing pot from Thailand. Now, several of his associates, including Leland Dart, Philip Christensen, and John Corman, who were involved in the Thai venture, gave consistent accounts of Lamort's role. Specifically, they recounted a pivotal meeting in 1983 during which Lamort discussed the various grades and prices of Thai pot, voicing his concerns about the poor sales due to the moldy products. Now, shortly afterward in 1985, the Thai operation came to an abrupt halt when U.S. Customs and the Coast Guard intercepted a fishing trawler, the Oregon Beaver, which was loaded with 22 tons of Thai flour off the coast of San Francisco. With his back against the wall, Lamorte presented two stout defenses to shield him from the supposed allegations. Firstly, he contended that the government's witnesses were nothing short of unreliable. In his opinion, the investigations from the government were simply a malevolent attempt to tarnish his name. Something to know about Lamort is that he was a very eloquent man. With his words, the drug kingpin painted a picture of witnesses who, according to him, traded their testimony for the prospects of a milder punishment, leaving him to face the grim reality of an extended stay behind bars. But he didn't just attempt to discredit the witnesses, he even discredited the prosecutor. During his closing statement, Lamort cast a suspicious shadow over the prosecutor by claiming that he was involved in a conspiracy that went all the way up to the highest ranks of the government authority. Of course, the government responded by mounting a staunch counteroffensive. After all, there was a whole mountain of evidence, not to mention that the corroborating testimonies from all of the witnesses involved. But regardless, the damage had been done. Lamort's comments about the witnesses, prosecutor, and the government had struck a chord with the public. But Lamort was not done. His second line of defense rested on the premise that he quit the underworld a long time before he was eventually arrested. According to him, even if he had indeed dabbled in the world of drug smuggling, he had deliberately severed his connections to the underworld by the latter half of September of 1984. And based on this, Lamort argued that he had no reason to be prosecuted and incarcerated. Now, to support this claim, Lamort summoned witnesses with testimonies that implied that he had made a clean break from the drug world. Now, the government, however, swiftly countered with a host of evidence indicating that Lamort's fingerprints could still be found all over the operation right into 1984 and even 1985. Now, the whole back and forth between Lamort and the government took quite a while. In fact, it was so exhausting that after 6 prolonged days of agonizing deliberation, the jury had still not reached a decision. Finally, on the 7th day, Judge Edelstein, with stern resolve, administered an Allen charge. Basically, an Allen charge is when the jury is struggling to reach a decision, and the judge advises them to get those in the minority to change their decision. And shortly after, the jury returned with a verdict. They found him guilty. Now, not surprisingly, Lamort did not take the decision lying down. And so, following the court's decision, Lamort began an arduous appeal process in which he raised 2 pivotal objections to the proceedings. His first contention had to do with prosecutor's statements, and apparently the prosecutor had said that the government was too busy to pursue innocent individuals, and according to Lamort, the statement unfairly colored his case in the eyes of the jury. Ironically, even though Lamort maintained that the prosecutor's statement was indeed improper, he did concede that the mishap was minor in nature, and that in the grand scheme of things, it did not deprive him of a fair trial. Now, turning his attention to the second objection, Lamort vigorously contended that the district's court instruction on withdrawal confused the jury. Now, according to him, the whole thing made the jury incapable of grasping the nuances of his defense. However, he still conceded that the courts effectively conveyed the essence of his withdrawal theory. And thus, this weight of the evidence, the complexities of legal arguments, and the solemn duty of justice carefully considered, the district court stands made its decision. First, it declared that the objections raised by William Lamort did not, in the eyes of the law, warrant a reversal of the verdict. In the court's view, justice had been served, and the prosecution's case withstood the scrutiny of the most diligent legal examination. This meant that Lamort had no case and would have to serve his time as decided by the court. And this takes us back to one of Lamort's closest friends, Jacob Moritz. As mentioned earlier, Jacob Moritz was instrumental in establishing the smuggling operation alongside Lamort. And so when Lamort entered legal hot water, Moritz also found himself in similar trouble. Now, Moritz was apprehended in the early hours of April 15, 2018, while attempting to cross the Canadian border near Rexford, Montana, as detailed by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Now, the efforts of Border Patrol officers were initiated in response to a tip-off regarding 2 individuals behaving suspiciously, emerging from a wooded area near the border. However, in the end, the fate of Moritz ended up very differently than that of Lamort's following his arrest. Moritz secured his freedom on bail, The court demanded a $100,000 bond, which Moritz posted in April 2018 as generously provided by his sons, the accomplished attorneys Jonathan and Dylan Brunza. As of 2019, Moritz resided with his wife in a Tampa apartment, living under the watchful eye of GPS monitoring and adhering to a daily curfew as stipulated in court records. Now, Lamort, on the other hand, died in prison on July 4th, 2007, at the age of 60, having lost several appeals for his conviction. Successful drug dealers create a public persona to explain their wealth and lifestyle, and William F. Lamort did this by becoming an active member of his community, playing a role of successful businessman and upstanding citizen. But getting too close to law enforcement just draw more attention to his smuggling operation? And also, do you think it's fair that, in a lot of ways, just because Moritz got away, he's under a lot less scrutiny? The one thing that needs to be highlighted in this series is that, yes, I don't think that, Lamorte smuggling H and other harder substances was good. There are a lot of people that smuggled this plant that they were caught in the past where the drug laws were a lot harsher. Some of these people, died in prison like Lamort did, whereas his companion, Moritz, who, only got caught in 2018, is only on GPS monitoring, right? It's very, very different. Anyways, really appreciate you guys for watching this episode of the Trap Tree series. What's your thoughts on this? Let me know down below. Please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, comment down below, all that good stuff. Follow us on all the social medias. Links are down below. Anyways, this is LMC signing out. Peace. With this story, I think it's pretty interesting. I think it's an interesting story. It's almost like a little bit like The Great Gatsby slightly, but it's definitely an interesting story of how, this man, got so ingrained within county politics, within society, was looked at this, as this great Samaritan, but, happened to be really, pushing packs on the side, really not on the side as his main thing. Interesting stuff though. I really appreciate you guys for joining me on this episode of the Trap Tree series. If you guys are new to the channel, please hit the like button, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about this whole story. Definitely follow me on all the socials. The links are down below in the description. Anyways, guys, this is LMC signing out.